Welcome back, everybody, to the Level Up Podcast. We learn how to go from agent to entrepreneur. We are back with Greg Harrelson and Brendan Payne. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good, man. Looking forward to another great conversation.
Awesome. So we're going to pick up where we left off. If the listeners recalled, we talked a little bit about just the core fundamentals of a business breakthrough, the common problems and solution that a lot of high-profile kind of plateauing agents have with newer agents. Super interesting conversation, and it led us down a path that we didn't get to really finish up in that episode. So we wanted to kind of chase this down the rabbit hole a little bit more. So, Greg, this has been on your mind a lot because what you're seeing essentially is a lot of the noise and a lot of probably, I guess, advice or guidance being offered by other people, and you feel like it can, potentially do some disservice. So let's give what are you seeing out there, first of all, before we get into kind of how to suss out whether it's accurate and whether we should take that advice. What advice are you seeing out there right now in the market?
Oh, what advice? Gosh, I mean, we're seeing all the, I would say that probably the most popular one is, how to not have to make another call, just, make millions off of generating Facebook leads, or we generate Facebook leads at this price, and these leads are this, and these leads are that, but I would say probably the biggest thing that I see pitched right now is social media marketing. And those companies that are pitching it, they may have good products. I'm not going to knock anybody's product at all. As a matter of fact, we do social media marketing. Brendan's involved in that, with me. But I just say there's a lot of noise. And on the conversation of noise, just to kind of put my vision to this conversation is just like we're at this in the parking lot together. And, I've got this nice car and you got this nice car and 5 of our friends are all sitting there. We all got this nice car, these nice cars, and we're sitting in the middle of our little cars and everyone's got their stereo blasting, just booming. And we've all got high dollar, stereo systems. So like half the town can hear this thing going on. The challenge is that each one of our cars has a different CD on or different song on. And so that's what I hear right now. It's like there's some great music being played. It's just there's like so much going on all in one location. It's so loud. If I'm standing in the middle, I can't hear any of the songs. All I hear is just a bunch of noise. And I feel like that's our industry right now. Now take out some of those cars and turn off some of those stereos, or everyone get on the same page, and the message will be crystal clear. But when there's so much going on at one time, it's almost like I just need to turn it all off.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so
that makes
that's
sense.
Kind of what I think of as noise in the industry.
And Brendan, this kind of kicked off. You guys were talking about this, on your big hike the other day. So what's been on your mind lately as far as like who are people listening and what you're seeing the level of noise have an influence and an effect on the people that are kind of in your world?
Yeah, I think a couple things are happening now or have happened as a result of just what we have access to. One being most of the people, and I think a lot of the people that are probably listening to this podcast are always trying to learn. So they're always looking for new information and they want to get better. And so they're wanting to consume as much stuff as they can. But when there are so many options out there, then I think that you almost get addicted to how much new stuff can I get in front of. And so I use the example, like I know we have some really, really strong agents in our offices, and they have seen success with what we do. They subscribe to what we do. They don't question what we do. But even at that point, they're still going and, they might be looking and listening to what else is out there or hearing what other options are out there. What other systems could I be using? And so the critical part is how much of that noise, how much of those other things that are going on in your head and that are you allowing to influence you? Because if you don't have a clear plan of like, what am I subscribing to? Who am I listening to? And is it legitimate? And is it going to get me where I want to be? If you don't have that, then all the other noise is going to become the influencer. And so you can have a real clear path and still have some distractions, But if you don't have a real clear path, those distractions allow you to just go anywhere. And I think that's a lot of the frustration that people are feeling right now, is because they are hearing that everything works, and maybe it's not necessarily that everything works for the agent, but maybe whoever's pitching the idea, everything works if they've got an idea. So, that's I think one of the biggest challenges right now is people are coming into the business and they're seeing everything as the next best way to grow my business. And as we know, there's probably a handful of things that you really need to be doing early on and to break through that are going to impact it. And it might not be all the stuff that you're hearing. It might not be 100% accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brendan, you said that, just having a clear path. I think, Greg, this goes back to our conversation about the commonalities between the new agent and the top producer, right? So both of them, if they really understand the path that they're heading towards, the new agent can get there faster, and the top profile, the high profile top producer agent ends up probably knocking out one of their own legs and getting away from some of the lead generation fundamentals that made them successful to begin with. And so their path has become unclear, right? They start trying to trade one lead generation pillar for another, and they end up kind of plateauing. I think that's one of the advantages of having somebody, whether it's a coach or a mentor, just somebody that you can listen to that does lay out that clear path, so that you're not looking at it from the perspective of, okay, how can I incorporate this tactic into my business? It's more like, hey, is this the right time to add a lead generation pillar? Yes or no. Then if you determine that the answer is yes, because that's going to get you a business breakthrough, then you can start looking at, okay, what are the options for the lead generation pillars, and what's the thing that I can do to add into it without letting go of the things that I'm already doing that are working. I think that's part of where people get distracted, is they start to chase the new thing. They let something else go because they didn't really take the time to strategically really think through what they were chasing and how to get the right thing, the right pillar into their business on top of what they already have. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense to me. And as you know, people know, they see me all the time writing notes when I'm doing these podcasts. I wrote down here, this is how I see agents, right now is, I want to know and learn everything, even though I haven't executed on the last thing that I learned. I want to learn. It's like I hear something out there. It's like, okay, I need to focus on, I need to learn this because somebody said that this helped them get to the next level. And I think, like, most products probably have legs. They probably can help, right? But the challenge is by the time you've got to complete the circle. If you're going to start a circle, complete the circle. There's too many incomplete circles out here, and people are afraid that if they don't learn this, then they're going to miss out. But that's actually what's causing them to miss out. It's like, because they're learning this, and then before they fully execute it, then their attention goes to learning this, and then before they fully execute it, next thing you know, they've halfway learned multiple systems, executed none, and they're at the same spot. So I'm not trying to say, and I don't think Brendan is trying to say, that these distractions, some of them are actually really good stuff. It's just, how do you, as a business person, step back and say, at some point I have to turn all these distractions off and complete and execute one system, then go back and choose the next thing to execute.
And the other thing on that too is, I think we have to acknowledge too, if you're in this business, that it's a nice break in your day. It's a nice break in your month or your year. Distractions are a nice break from usually the things that are the most important, that tend to be a little boring. So no matter what you're doing, and everybody's heard the cliches of, the free throw, Michael Jordan, and shooting free throws and 3-pointers. And if you're going to be really, really good in anything, it's usually the boring stuff that you did over and over and over and over again that made you really, really good. And it's nice to have a break from that stuff, to be distracted, to go learn 3 or 4 new things before you really became an expert at the core. But that's the same as saying, well, I'd rather go play a pickup game with the boys than really learn the fundamentals of basketball. The guy that learned the fundamentals of basketball is the guy that goes pro. And the guy that is playing 3-on-3 with his buddies is a guy that continues to just, kind of dabble in it. So I think that we've got to acknowledge that it's going to be easier to go off the path, but you need to get the core in first, then bring the extras in after.
Yeah. So on the short term, Brendan, it's a lot easier to get distracted and go off the path. But the byproduct of that is in the long term, you might not be as fulfilled financially or from a wealth standpoint or production standpoint as you may have envisioned. Like to take that shortcut on the front end usually cuts you kind of short on the back end too.
Yeah, the core is the core for a reason. It's because that'll be there no matter what. It doesn't matter what the market is. It doesn't matter, what you've got going on that distracts you later on. If the core's in place, then you add to it, and you already have that base.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Matt, would it be important that maybe we ought to have a conversation about what the heck the core is? Because we're using the term core, but people might be thinking, well, what is the core? And maybe I'll throw one out there, and you each can throw one out. Because, but for me, and I think it would not be surprising, would be one of the cores, I believe, is outbound lead generation. Okay, I think that's a core, and I think it's a core because it's something that you control. It's not something that somebody else controls. Like, RedX, a lot of people subscribe to RedX, great product. Don't know that RedX has ever went down, but let's just assume that RedX, for some reason, had a glitch in their software and it went down for 3 or 4 days. Well, then that's something that you don't control. That controls you, but you can't do anything about it. So one of the things that I'm looking at with outbound lead generation, having some of that inside of your business is important, because it's something that you can control, whether the market's good or bad, and it's not going to be dictated by some company that you might subscribe to. That's one of the core. So outbound prospecting would be a core. Brendan, can you name one, or what are your thoughts on additional cores?
Yeah, I think probably the most obvious one that comes to my mind is schedule, and being able to actually have one, and especially in the someone that's in growth mode, regardless whether you're in growth mode in the early stage of your career or you plateaued and you're in growth mode later, the schedule is what is going to allow you to actually add those things back in to your day that are going to result in you doing more production. And we will find a way to, if it's not in place, then we'll let all the distractions take place. If things come in and they want to interrupt our schedule and we have a schedule in place, now we can make a business decision on whether or not is this a better move than what I already had for, in this slot for my day.
Yeah. So to piggyback on that, I would even say ultra focus on the morning routine, which is part of the schedule. It's like mastering the morning routine, making sure that as a core, you have lead generation in your business in the morning, preferably from 8 to 11. That's one of those that top producers a lot of times really stray away from because they have so many other things that they've got to fit into their day. It's one of the hardest things to stay committed to for your entire career, but that is a core. So you're making outbound calls, but then you got to also say, well, here's the routine in order to do this lead generation, whatever lead generation is. That would be another core. Another one would be skill building. Is always focusing. We're never too good to practice. You look at all the legends in sports or music or the arts, whatever, they're all practicing. It's a core. It's like they've never arrived. They're always in pursuit of mastery. They have never mastered. None of them would say, anybody that has made it to the top that we would look at and say, that's a legend. A legend would never state that they've mastered something. They would always admit that they're in pursuit of mastery. I think that's a core. Constantly be working on your skills. Can never get good enough. Okay. Anything else?
No, actually, it kind of goes back to what Brendan talked about: skills, contacts, and systems.
Sure does.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have nothing I can add to that would elaborate on that. So this has been really, really good. What we didn't get into a little bit is just, It's interesting, Greg, you talk about, the systems that are out there. You really don't hear about them. They're going to work. Everything works for somebody, and everybody's going
Yeah.
to tell people about it when it does work. Some of those, some of them have good incentives. Some of them have good motivation. Some of them don't. The more we can suss that out, the better for us, as rank and file agents and entrepreneurs. That is something to be aware of, that not everybody has good intentions. Not everybody has their best interest as the agent at heart. And just to be aware of that fact, I think would help a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, where I think the industry is right now, and this is a real challenge for real estate agents, is there's a lot of recruiting going on. I mean, I'm recruiting agents, other companies are recruiting my agents. There's just a lot of recruiting going on, right? And the key is that the things that are being promised, the things that are being suggested, the things that are being said to try to get somebody to go to their company or go to that company it's getting, I mean, the promises that are being made are just like, wow. Like at some point I feel like, man, I need to go away. I need to go and be with them. And I think in this particular conversation, I'd say this: we have to be careful these days and not analyze the deal that's being presented. Don't only analyze the story that's being told. Analyze the person, the motivation of the person who's telling a story. Because right now, I think there's more things going on where the motivation to get someone to do something has more to do with their gain than it has to do with your gain. And you've got to be really careful on that, because the offers that are being made right now make no sense in the long term of real estate business. But the market's really good. So as long as the market stays fantastic, then maybe somebody says will come true. But it doesn't really matter if it comes true for most people that are recruiting right now or trying to sell something. All that really matters is they hit the market, they get the deal, and they profit from it as much as they personally can right now before the market goes down. So I feel like a lot of people are selling out, and they're kind of stretching the story so they can close one more deal before the market goes down, and then this all becomes something that they can't get away with anymore. So I can get on my soapbox on this one, but I do believe that the best thing you can do right now is analyze the motives of the person. Find out what's really in it for them. And when you really find out what's really in it for them, you might realize that no wonder why they're working so hard to try to close me down.
Mm-hmm.
Because it should be about what's in it for us as an agent, what's in it for you, not them. If they're focused, a true leader, in my opinion, focuses on making sure that the other person is getting something, is winning. The leader, it's not me winning, it's got to be my agents winning. And if I help enough of my agents win, I win in spite of the whole situation.
What do you mean by in spite of it?
I mean, in other words, if I help, I don't have to consume myself with having to win. I'll just like, if I get my agents, if my agents are winning, if I can help them win, whatever game they're playing, then I win automatically.
Gotcha. In spite of the fact that you're not necessarily focusing on your own gain, so you're focusing on others.
That's correct. Yes, that's right. If I help enough people get what they want, then I will eventually get what I want. I don't have to put my attention on what I want. But I think so many people, their presentation and products and services and recruiting right now, it's really they're telling a sexy story. But the reality is they're telling that story because that's the story that they need to tell in order to close the deal. And once they close the deal, you find out that their motivation was all about them closing the deal because they disappear, and all of a sudden the story never comes true.
Yeah, and that comes down to leadership. So that leads us down a whole other topic, kind of branch that we don't have time to go into. But you do have very strong, I think very clear, reasonable views on leadership, and I think that really what irks you about what's going on in the market right now is just kind of an overall lack of leadership.
Yeah, I'm kind of, yes, that is correct. And what really irks me is I feel like there's in the end, in the end, the agents lose.
Right.
In the end, agents lose when there's a lack of authentic, genuine leadership to follow.
Agreed.
The agents will lose.
All right. Well, let's wrap this one up, Brendan, talking about authentic leadership. If somebody wants to kind of plug into what you guys are doing there in Charleston and Myrtle Beach, how do they reach out and connect with you?
Any of the social media platforms, and Facebook is probably the easiest, quickest. Message me and connect that way.
Excellent. And then, Greg, same question for you.
Yeah, same thing, man. Just go on to Facebook, message me, and I'll do my best to, to give you a thoughtful answer if you ask me a question.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, in one of the episodes we recently did, you read off an actual question that you got and just kind of the interchange. So like that is a real thing. Greg actually answers his Facebook messages. I can attest to that. So guys, make sure to connect with both of those guys. If you know an agent or someone who's thinking about becoming an agent kind of in that Myrtle Beach, Charleston area, really anywhere in South Carolina, just make sure to reach out, connect them with Greg and Brendan. For the show itself, you can go to the leveluppodcast.com, get all the back episodes there. You can go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and leave us a review, which we'd really appreciate. If you enjoyed a particular guest, like if you enjoy Brendan or some of the other guests that we've had on the show, make sure to give them a shout out and thank them for their time and their contribution in the review. And with that being said, gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been awesome. We really appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah,
thanks, Matt.
Great time, great information.